All right, good morning, gentlemen, or maybe ladies and gentlemen. All right, welcome to another Bloodhound workshop. So there is a new name in the room here I don't recognize. So before getting started, let me ask, so for the new person here that, uh, well, let me ask just to make sure if there's anybody new in these workshops here or anybody who's fairly new. And my question is, would you like to hear the workshop introduction? All right, so the workshop introduction is I'll explain what we do in these workshops, right? What we do in these workshops, and probably more importantly, what we do not do in these workshops. And then secondly, I'll explain how the recordings work. So that way, if you do ask a question, you'll know when and where you can get a copy of the recording of your question there. And then lastly, I'll explain what custom indicators I can install into my machine in case you do have a question about using a custom indicator there. All right, so if anybody would like to hear that workshop introduction, let me know so I can get that out of the way first. There. And Charles says my audio is good. All right, excellent. So, yeah, I didn't actually check my microphone levels there in Zoom. I did yesterday. No, look at that. Zoom knocked my microphone down. All right, guys, it's going to get loud here. There we go. That should be quite a bit louder now. All right. Let's see here. All right, so I don't see any takers on the workshop introduction. So let's dive right into the first question here that was emailed in. All right, so yeah, so I did have a question. Actually, this question was from last week. So I did address this question last week, but we're going to address it again here with some more clarification. So this is a revisit on last week's question about, a pullback below a 9 or a 6 EMA, and using a 30 EMA as, I guess, the longer term trend direction there. All right. So with this screenshot, it tells me some things that I wasn't provided last week, which is this is for a Renko system. And also, yeah, we do have a third rule here, which is specific to Renko bars, right? So the signal has to be on the reversal bar of the Renko bar, right? So we'll tie that condition in. So everything else here, all rule number 1, number 2, number 4 are the same as last week. The one defining difference is rule number 3 here, making sure that it occurs on a reversal bar. So, and I may have included an inflection solver for rule number 3 last week, but I'm not sure if I did or not. So, but yeah, we'll just build this real quick again and knock it out there. So, all right. And actually, I need to make a subtle adjustment. That's an EMA 6 there, and I think I put a 9 in. Yeah, I did. Okay. Yeah. All right. Let's adjust that to a 6. And there we go. All right, so there's our EMA 6 and EMA 30 there. So let's go through these one at a time. So rule number 1 is going to be the easiest. Is the EMA 6 above or below the EMA 30, right? Fast EMA above or below the slow EMA. All right, and we'll do that one first. So let's get Bloodhound open here. And also let's put today's file name in there. And all right, April Fool's Day is over, thankfully. And there we go, April 2nd. All right, now we have a file name in place, so all of our work gets saved to this file. So, all right, so how do we determine if one moving average is above or below the other one? Right, that is the comparison solver, right? That's really all what it does is checks to see if one, piece of information is above or below another data point. Really, is one data point above or below another data point. So, all right, so let's rename this. There. All right, EMA 6 to the EMA 30. There we go. All right, so input A is almost always the faster moving average. So let's open up the indicator, and then we'll plug in the EMA. All right, there we go. Put in the 6 period. And there we go. Same thing for input B. Let's open up the indicator. And HMA, there's the EMA. All right, put in the 30 period. All right, is the 6 above or below the 30? And there we have it. All right, pretty straightforward. And so let's move on to the next rule here. Price needs to pull back below the EMA 6. So so the bar must be fully below the EMA 6, right? And again, this is for a long. So how do you know if the whole bar is below moving average? Well, if the high price is below it, then the rest of the bar is below it, right? So pretty straightforward. So all right, let's see. Yeah, let's just add another comparison solver there. So for a long trade, we're checking to see if the high price is below. For a short trade, we're checking to see if the low price is above. And then we're comparing that to the EMA 6 there. All right, this time input A is going to be price. So let's change the type here, the input type, to price. All right, and as we kind of already figured out with the name, for a long trade, we need the Renko bar to be below the EMA, and it's going to be the high price below the EMA. So let's plug in the high price for a long signal, and then almost always your short signals are going to be using the opposite price. So there you go, low price. Now input B needs to be the EMA 6. So let's open that up. Plug in the 6 period. There we go. Now, let's see if this actually looks correct. No, let's see. No, it doesn't. So, right, we can see here we have a couple of, we at least have one bar, have 2 bars here. That's below the EMA 6, right there. I guess let's stretch this out a little bit, right? Yeah, we have at least 2-3 bars, and we notice there's no long output on those bars. So what we need to do is go into the comparison rules here, and we'll have to adjust things. All right, so for a long signal, the high price needs to be less than, not greater than, right? It needs to be below the EMA. So we need to switch this to the less than symbol, and that means we're going to reverse the symbol for the short signals. So there we go, just simple reversal, which is fairly common sometimes. And there we have it. So there's all the bars where the high is below the EMA 6. And so we can see we have a wick there that's just barely above that EMA, and so there's no long output. So, all right, another rule down. Let's move on to the next one here. So number 3 is actually the triggering condition, right? Every system has a key rule that actually fires off the signal, that triggers the signals. Everything else is basically kind of filtering, looking at price and indicators and, building some kind of filtering condition here. So I'm going to save number 3 for last here, because number 4 here, right, we also need price to be above the EMA 30, right, for this. So that's another filter there. Price, basically the closing price needs to be above the EMA 30 there. So let's plug that one in there. So let's add another comparison solver, like so. So we're going to compare the close to the EMA 30. All right, so input A will be price again, and the closing price of the bar is the default, so we'll just leave that alone. Input B, right, let's switch that over to the EMA 30. There we go. Put in the 30 period, and we're done. There. And so this is the EMA 30, right? So there we go. When the closing price is above, we get a long, and as soon as that closing price goes below, right, we get a short there. All right. So now we have all of our filters in place, and so let's start plugging these into the AND node, right? And so this basically is the setup here. All right. So we started to have a setup for a long, but then price went too far down. So, and here we go. So here's a setup for a short, right? And the trigger is on the next reversal bar down, right? Next reversal bar down. So, right, so this is actually the signal bar right here, right? So let's build a inflection solver. So the inflection solver here tells us when price reverses, or anything reverses, right? We could plug the EMA 6 in there, and it'll tell us when the EMA 6 rolls over, right, or rolls up, right, reverses up, reverses down. But this time, actually, we're going to check to see when price reverses here. So the input, the type will be price, and the closing price is already the default. So there we go, right? And there we have it. So now when it comes to Renko bars, the price inflection will identify all of the reversal bars, right? Reversal bars only. So there we go, a bunch of reversal bars all in a row, and there we go, they're all marked, right? Now, the important thing here is, remember the filter. Let's move this over there. right? The filter was on this bar. So there, or let's go with the triangle there, right? But our signal is on this bar. So if we plug in the inflection solver, right, the signal is on that bar. So since they're on different bars, if we plug that in, right, nothing happens, right? 3 of the solvers have an output on this bar, and 1 solver has an output on that bar, so there's no output. So what we need to do is take our filters here, and let's name this. So in this case, we can actually name this because this AND node does actually have a specific duty or situation that it's looking for. So we need to take our filters and shift it forward 1 bar onto the potential reversal bar. All right. So to do that, let's go to our function nodes and add a look back node. So we're not actually looking back, but we're using the displacement to shift the signal forward, right? That's what NinjaTrader's displacement does with indicators. So, so we have it here, and with that displacement, there you go. Now it's shifted forward onto the reversal bar, right? If we turn the displacement off, set it to 0, there we go. Our signal is back on the same bar there. So that's what we're using, and I always like to name it so I know exactly what the look back is doing. So I'm using a 1 bar or a 1 period displacement there. All right, and so now with that, let's move all this back just a little bit. We need 1 more AND node. All right, plug that in, and then plug that in, and there we have it. And there's our signal. So let's scan through the chart and see what we have. Yep, that looks correct, and that looks correct, and that looks correct. Now this bar, this almost, this almost would have nullified that signal. So if the EMA 30 was a little bit lower there, that would have nullified the signal there, right? And that is because of the way everything is built, right? So essentially, if we look at our filters, right, it includes, remember we have this one condition, rule number 4, which is the close has to be below the EMA 30 for a short signal. So if it was above, it would have killed the filter on that bar. So depending on, so this is a good example of why details are critical. You can't just throw out miscellaneous rules there and expect to build it correctly. So, right, this one little detail here could have killed, would have killed this signal if the EMA was a little lower. But, maybe that was not the intention when these rules were written. Maybe rule number 4 only applies on the reversal bar, right? But it doesn't state that there. So assuming that rule maybe does only apply to the reversal bar, we can disconnect it there and connect it down here. So now this filter is associated with the reversal bar, right? So this is the solver identifying the reversal bar. And now this filter here only applies when that reversal bar occurs. There. But then again, maybe, maybe this does need to go back there, right? Maybe if price is starting to get too close to that EMA, maybe that occasionally produces some bad signals. I don't really know. So, all right. So, anyways, I'll just leave it with that subtle little adjustment there, and let's see if we have any more. All right. Yep. There we go. Yep, that looks like a good one. And here we go. So here's that exception we just built in, right? So the closing price is definitely above the EMA 30, and our signal still occurs. So if this gets plugged in back here, bingo, it disappears, right? It disappears now. Yeah. So, well, all right. I think that concludes it. And actually, yeah, there's another signal and another signal where, yeah, where price is above the EMA 30. So all three of these signals, yeah, are getting through by adjusting where this price filter goes. Yeah. All right. Well, with that, let me see if there's any follow-up questions. I think we're done with this question so far. Yeah. Let's see. Let's see what Melroy has here. All right. Melroy has a separate question. All right, well, I don't see any follow-up questions on this. So yeah, let's move on to Melroy's question, although I do need to, let's wrap this one up here. Let's give this a name here. All right, I guess that's good enough there. And let's create a new logic template here. And there we go. All right, so give me a moment to digest Melroy's question here, and then we'll get started. Okay, I think I understand what Melroy's asking here. So let's pop this into a notepad so everybody else can see the question here. All right, so the first condition here is pretty simple. We need the, I'm assuming, so most people use the word crossover incorrectly, technically. So I'm going to assume this means that the EMA 9 just needs to be above the EMA 14, not the actual crossover point. And then we have a MACD condition. So we need the MACD sloping pretty significantly. So the slope on it needs to be 1 unit of slope there. That's what I think is intended by using the word deviates. So yeah, so let's kind of just build this out here. This would be pretty simple to do. And also we'll add the ATR there as well. So let's here, I'll shrink that up a little bit there. All right, so EMA 9 and 14. Well, let's hold on. Let's actually get these on the chart. All right, so there's our EMA 9, EMA 14, the two thicker lines, and then our MACD here. So, all right, so let's identify when the faster EMA is above or below the slower EMA. So that will be a comparison solver. Let's connect that in. All right, let's give it a name. So we're comparing the EMA 9 to the EMA 14. All right, so let's plug in our EMAs. And this is this is why I don't use EMA as a search term, because there's so many indicators with the EMA. There it is. All right. All right, so there is our EMA 9 in input A. So input B is almost always the slower moving average. So this will be our EMA 14. So all right, EMA 14 is the default, so we're good there. Right, let's click OK. All right, pretty straightforward, right? There's our two moving averages. So as soon as the 9 was above the 14, right, we get a long output. And when it crosses back down and the 9 is now below, right, we get that short output, right? Easy. All right, next one. We're going to check the slope of the MACD here and make sure that the slope has at least a 1 unit slope amount. Yep. So let's grab a slope solver. There we go. Slope solver. Connect that in. And let's give this a name. All right. So let's plug in the MACD here for the input. All right, there's our MACD, and we're just going to go with the default periods here, and we are looking at the MACD line, so that's already selected, so we can click OK. All right, now we need that right, that 1 point, or technically it's 1 unit here, but I guess you know, for the MACD itself, you know, every unit is kind of a point there. So, and the reason why I used 1 point in the name is because, you know, in the units here, we don't have units as a unit. So points or ticks. So indicators that run inside their own subpanel, right? Indicators that have their own scaling. You know, a 1 unit movement or is a point there. So, all right. So we want to make sure that the MACD is rising by at least 1 point, or is the MACD falling by at least 1 point, right? Click OK. And on this Renko chart, that apparently never happens. Yep. So, yeah, I guess a 8-tick Renko or a 2-point Renko is not going to move the MACD high enough. So let's switch back to a minute chart. There we go. All right, minute charts will do it for sure. So, all right, so there we go. So whenever, actually that's a good example right there. Stretch this out a little bit, right? So whenever that MACD has a pretty good slope on it there, right? It's dropping from 1 bar to the next bar. It's dropping by more than 1 unit, right? So here we go. We have a good drop, and then it kind of flattens out, right? So it's no longer dropping by 1 unit or more. And then it begins to drop again. So here we go. Same thing here, right? So we can see as it begins to kind of roll over and flatten out, right? Obviously, it's no longer rising by at least 1 point or 1 unit for the MACD there. There. All right, so we can now plug these together. Let's add a AND node. Try and say that 10 times fast. Okay, and there we go. So there's our filters there. So when the faster EMA is above the slower one and the MACD is rising, there we go, right? We get an output there. So, right. Okay, now Oh, let's also add in, yep, our ATR here. Um, all right, so no signal, yep, if the ATR is above 27 here. So that is going to be a job for the threshold solver, right? 27 is our threshold level for the ATR. Let's see here. Yeah, I'm going to leave the ATR off the chart here. We'll just trust that it's working correctly. All right, so what we're looking for is we want to know when the ATR is less than 27. Right. So let's plug in the ATR. There we go. And I guess, yeah, we'll just go with the 14 period. Call it good. And now the threshold rules there. So we want to know when the ATR is less than 27. And for a short, the ATR needs to be less than 27 as well. All right, so both for a long and for a short, the ATR has to be less than, right, 27. And there we have it. All right, yeah, so obviously that huge spike in movement there increased our ATR, but once it settled back down here, now, and now, yeah, the NASDAQ at least is beginning to kind of settle back down there. All right, so we can connect that in as well. Right. Okay, so now our output here, I wouldn't really call these signals. They are simply just conditions, indicator conditions, not exactly triggerable signals. So right, we're just looking at these conditions, and none of these conditions are actually a triggering condition like in the last question that we had, right? So like, yeah, in the first question for today, number 3 was actually the triggering condition on a reversal bar, right? Whereas these 3 conditions, none of them are triggering conditions, right? They're just kind of filtering conditions. So anyways, all right, so there we have our output here, and the example here really is the key to this. So let's move this. Let's see here. I can't drag and drop. So all right, so here's really what we're getting at here is when the MACD rolls over. Right, so yeah, so for example, if the MACD reaches 4 and then, right, and then the slope rolls over, right, and now it's 3.5, right, and then keeps going lower, right, there, then generate a short signal after that. All right, so what we have to do, right, so this rollover of the MACD is obviously happening several bars into the future there. All right, several bars into the future. Let's see if we can actually find an example. Yeah, right there. All right, we're given a good example right in front of us. there. There. So it looks like probably about there is where a short signal is wanted, there, after the long signal, right? So the long signal must occur, right? And same thing here. So the reverse of all this is right here, right? We have an output, and then the MACD rolls up. So, yeah, so well, it's kind of hard to tell. It may not have rolled up for enough bars, possibly. Yeah, possibly. We'll mark it just in case. So we'll keep an eye on that there. All right, so what we need to do is extend, right, these conditions into the future. So let's grab a function node, and so we could either use a signal extender or a look back node here. You know, I think for this situation, I'll go with the signal extender just in case. So the benefit of the signal extender is we have a reset condition, right? So I'm only given a limited set of things here, but you know, there could be, just trying to read into this as best I can, there could be something else that says, all right, you know, we should reset the extension of the signal here. And so if we reset the signal extender, what that would do is that would kill the possibility of generating this short in the opposite direction, right? So for example, yeah, so we'll extend it out 3 bars there, right? So there we go. So it goes over far enough, you know, who knows, maybe 4 bars might be needed. But, right, so we've taken, right, the primary conditions and extended it forward in time, you know, for the MACD to roll over. And who knows, there could be some other situation, right, that wasn't provided to me where you may want to cancel generating this reversal signal, right? And so the signal extender allows you to do that by connecting whatever that condition is to bail or, you know, prevent this reversal signal. You can connect it into the reset, and that would turn off the signal extending there. And also, there we go. We'll give that a little more distinct name. So currently we're only extending by 3 bars. We might need 4 bars, but we'll just build it out with 3 and see how it goes. Okay, so next we need to identify when that MACD, right, does roll over or reverses directions, right? So when it goes from 4 to 3, or 3.5 to 3. Well, actually just from 4 to 3. So that is a job for the inflection solver, right? We want to know when that MACD reverses directions. All right, MACD inflection or MACD reversal. There we go, there's our MACD. And again, we're looking at the MACD line there, so that's selected for us. And there we have it. So every time that MACD reverses directions, right, when it rolls over, There we go. We have them all marked now. So let's connect this up with an AND node. Right. Now it could be just as simple as that. And let's see, I actually didn't get a signal there. Let's see, it's right there. Oh, yeah. All right. Hopefully, some of you regulars in the room would have noticed my mistake here. So, right, we're taking a long condition, and then we're converting it into a short signal. So my signal extender is taking the long output and just extending it as a long output. The signal extender needed to be swapped. So, all right. Yep, it needed to be swapped. And now, there we go. There it is. So this, this could do it. It could be just as simple as this. Just checking to see when the MACD rolls over. But it does say we need 2 or 3 bars of that MACD continuing to reverse, right? So that means we'll, let's see, so we do have a slope solver, making sure that the MACD is, right, sloping by at least 1 point. This doesn't state that. So I'm going to create a second slope solver here. So let's copy that and paste that down here. All right. And let's take out that minimum slope requirement there. Let's take that out. And so that means we also need to go into the slope rules and take out that 1 point requirement, like so. There. So if we take a look at this, right, this is just simply just telling us, right, there's always an output, right, because the MACD is always sloping some direction. So there we go. So we always have an output now. So before I connect this in, because we are utilizing an inflection solver, right, to identify when the MACD reverses conditions, I can use the inflection solver to satisfy this 2 or 3 bar continuation of the MACD, rolling over there. So in the inflection solver here, right, we have this look back period. So, actually, yeah, you know what? Yeah, sometimes that'll work. So I'm faced with a decision choice. Do I extend, right, this reversal signal forward, or I could go the easy route and just take this signal extender, bump it up a couple of, bars there, and then I can go into the inflection solver and bump that up by a couple of bars, right? And there we go. So there it is. plug that in there. Let's see here. Although, yeah, so when we go this route, we can see that we're fed continuous signals there, which does kind of fall in line with, what is triggering all of this stuff, or what's, the beginning of this reversal signal here. So if that's, wanted like that, then there we go. But if we want a distinct signal, then what I'm going to do, I'm going to roll this back down to 3. So that's the signal extender. And then go to the inflection solver. And I'm going to set the look back down to 1 again. There. And so now I'm going to take these signals here, these reversal signals, and extend them out by 2 bars. All right, so yeah, let's take a signal extender. All right, I'm just going to go with 2 bars here. And also, our MACD filter, right, applies to the extension of the MACD rolling over. So let's add a AND node and connect in our MACD filter like so. There we have it. And one last step here. Is we need at least 2, right? We need this 2 or 3 bars here. So we're going to turn the displacement off. And what we're going to be using is the look back period. There we go. Increase that to 2. And we need a minimum of 2 bars. And yeah, there we have it. So now, in order to see both, so here's a little trick. So in order to see, right, the first criteria here, right, the first indicator conditions here, right, which sets up the signal with the direction of the market, I guess, right, to see that prior to getting this reversal signal, right, we can use this OR node here, and this OR node, there, plug that in. So this OR node, I'm going to go to the Options tab, right? So I have the OR node selected here. And select again. Go to the Options tab, and I'm going to reduce the output here. Something like 0.2, good enough. Right, so we can see that output now. That looks kind of small there. Let's go 0.33. There we go. A little easier to see. And then add another OR node. Connect that in. Connect that in. And connect that to the result node. There. All right. So there was the long output from the initial conditions. And then there is the short reversal signal right there from the MACD rolling over. And same back here, right? So we had some short outputs there, right, from the initial condition. A short output there, and then the MACD rolled over, and we got those signals. Okay. And same back here. Yeah. So there was a short, and then the MACD rolled over, and yeah, so we had a long, but the MACD took a little too long to roll over there. Right. So this let's see here. So this is the core system here, and the rest is a matter of fine-tuning it, right? So fine-tuning it, meaning like how long do you wait for that MACD to roll over? Right, so this part here, looking for that MACD to roll over, right? How long do you wait for that? Right, that is, yeah, that's determined back here by this signal extender, right? So it's taking the initial conditions and is extending it forward here. Let's go back to the properties tab. Right, so we're giving the MACD at least 3 bars here. So if you want to give the MACD only 2 bars to roll over, then you just adjust the signal extender by that, right? And then there is, let's see here, then there's this condition, which is how many bars after the MACD reverses direction, right? How many bars do you want to be counting for that? So that is a matter of, let's see here. Actually, I don't think this signal extender actually is needed. That might be extra. Yeah, I'm just going to knock it down to 1. Yeah, there we go. So yeah, I should have knocked this down to 1. So really, all this signal extender is doing is it's taking this condition, which is the MACD reversal. Right, so we can actually name the AND node here. Right, so that's the MACD reversal. And then we're extending that, let's see. Let's see. So, yeah, okay, let me explain it this way here. So this signal extender and this lookback node, right, they're both elements of this 2 to 3 bar continuation there. All right, so yeah. So with the look back period, right? So right now this look back period is set to 2. So that means we're only doing the 2 bar requirement there, right? 2 bar requirement. And so therefore the signal extender only needs to extend by 1 bar, because remember what's coming out of the AND node is 1 bar, and then the signal extender provides the 2nd bar. And to see that, let's connect that up, right? So if we look at the AND node here, right, which is our MACD reversal, right, that's only 1 bar there. Let's go back here. Yeah, see, it's only 1 bar there. And so if we need a 2 bar continuation of that MACD, that's what our signal extender is doing. So if we look at the signal extender, boom, now we have our 2-bar requirement, and then combined with the look back node, right? The look back node says, hey, we need a minimum of 2 bars. And so then when we look at the look back node, right, it's reducing it down to 1 bar there. So so if you need a 3-bar continuation, right, of that MACD rolling over, then we could set our look back to 3 bars, and then the signal extender needs to be incremented to 2 bars. Right? So if we look at the signal extender, right, there's our 3 bars, right, our 3-bar extension. But remember, the MACD also has to be sloping, right, in the same direction there. So as long as this AND node, right, so this AND node also has to have 3 bars. But we can see right here it only has 1 bar. And that's because, right, the MACD isn't rolling up, right? So, right, the MACD rolled back over again, so it went short. So that's why we only had 2 bars there, right? So that's what the AND node and our slope solver is doing, is making sure that the MACD continues to roll over there. Yeah, continues to roll over there. And then our look back node is making sure that we have at least 3 bars, right? So here we had 3 bars, here we had 3 bars, and here we had 3 bars, right? In the middle, we only had 1 bar there. Yeah, it's going to shrink this up a little bit. Right. Take a look at that, right? 3 bars, 1 bar, 3 bars, 1 bar, 1 bar, 1 bar. And so our look back node was checking to make sure that we have the 3 bars there of continuation. So all right, so I'm just gonna knock this down, set it back to the more liberal settings of 2 bars. And let's see, the signal extender. There. Yeah. All right, and we'll connect that all up, and there we have it. Yeah, so again, this OR node here, right, where the output is set to 0.33 on the options tab there, right, that's what allows us to see this output here. So hold on, I'm losing my voice. Let me take a drink of water. All right, hopefully that'll last a little bit longer, because I still feel like there's a little frog in my throat. All right, let's see here. I don't. Yeah, I think that's it. So yeah, I think I've covered all the bases here, and I think I got everything explained. So yeah, we'll leave it at that. So I did leave this system only requiring 2 bars, right? A 2-bar continuation of that MACD rolling over. Yeah. So yeah, and there we can see it. So there's the short, right, from the prerequisite there, from that prerequisite condition. There's the short that triggered that reversal signal, right? And there's the longs that triggered that short reversal, longs that triggered that short reversal. So yeah. All right, so that should do it. And yeah, let me kind of clean up my chart here. And let me see if there's any follow-ups on this. No, it doesn't look like anybody has any follow-up questions on this so far. Okay. All right, looks like Renga, I haven't seen you in the room in a while. All right, welcome back. So Renga's got a question here. Let's see here. Okay, Melray does have a follow-up question. Why is there no red signal in the huge drop? I'm sorry, Melray. I don't see any huge drop. You need to be a little more specific there. We're talking about this here after the huge climb. Yeah, give me a time. If you're trying to point something out, yeah, I really need a time to make it obvious. All right, well, since Melroy's not getting back to me, I'm going to move on to Ranga's question here. There. Oh, let's see here. What should we call this before I switch questions? Let's see. There we go. Yeah, I'll just call it a MACD rollover reversal signal. All right. Oh, there we go. Okay, Melroy's saying around 840. Let's see here. Yeah, there is a reversal signal there at 840. Oh, sorry, that's 940. 840. Yeah, there's no buys. Yeah, and simply put, there's no buys. So, yeah, you can see there's the last the last prerequisite condition here was at 740, right? And then we have this entire period with no right, no output from these conditions. And I recall, if you were watching earlier, remember that ATR got blown out of the water. Let's see, during this period here. Yeah, it was the ATR condition. Let's see. And at 10:10, all right, let's go look at 10:10. And 10:10. Yeah, so there's a sell, but there's no buy. Oh, yeah, because look at the MACD. So, it rolls. Yeah, it does roll up, but then it falls back down again, and it does roll back up. But I can see, look at how far away that is. So if you want to include, the MACD rolling over when it's really far away, right? When it's really far away from this condition, there. All right, so that's the area we're focused on. So, right, so there's those two shorts, and then let's look at this point here. There. Yeah. So there is our MACD reversal, and it did reverse, but it also reversed back down again. Yeah. So, if you wanted to allow the MACD to reverse up twice, then you would just take the signal extender and put it on the properties tab here. So you just need to take the signal extender and extend it out even further, extend it way out here, so that way you're taking, right? So you're taking the initial condition, you're taking that and you're extending it way out over here even further. And so that is what this signal extender is doing. So, yeah, so we can see the signal extender was 1 bar short of the MACD reversing again. Right, so there you go. Personal, personal decision making there. Do you want to extend this out another bar? So if I put 4 there, now we can see the MACD reversed up one more time. And that, I believe, should generate, there we go. There it is. So, So I'm going to, I'm going to knock that back down there. So, yeah, again, to reiterate, you're just going to have to fine tune all of these. Let's stretch this out here. You're going to have to decide on what these signal extenders, how far they should be allowing let me rephrase that a different way, right? So this signal extender determines how far away the MACD can be when it reverses direction, right? After this occurs, how long are you going to grant the MACD to reverse? And then this signal extender and this look back determines how many continuation bars of that MACD slope do you need? right? Yep. Yep. So, all right. And okay, so it looks like Milroy's good to go. Excellent. Yeah, all right. I'm just cleaning up the Q&A window there a little bit. There. All right, let's move on to the next question here from Ranga. All right, so here's the question. All right, so looking for a close above the halfway point of the bar. And the bar needs to be touching the EMA. Okay. So when a percentage of, or let me rephrase, yeah, let me say this a different way. When you need the bar to close at a certain percentage, near the top or near the bottom, right, depending on the bar direction, that's a mathematical formula, right? Bloodhound doesn't do mathematical formulas there. So, yeah. But this, you're lucky here, Ranga, because you're only dealing with the 50%. That actually is a bar price. That is the midpoint. Let's see, what does Ninja call it? Is it the mean? Yeah, the mean. And so, all right, so let's grab a comparison solver here, and we can look at those bar prices. So, all right. All right, so the midpoint or further. All right, so input A is going to be the bar prices, so the closing price. Input B is also going to be price. But this time, we want that price to be, let's see, not the median. Where is it? Oh, yeah, I guess it is the median. Let's see, I thought Ninja had the mean and the median price here. Yeah, so it'd be, yeah, the median. And let's see, yeah, we also have body median as well. Cool. All right, yeah, so the median. So I'm going to set both of these prices to the median there. And let's just double check the rules here. Yeah, so the close has to be greater than the median. So since it's greater than, that would be 51% or more, right? So if you want to include 50%, then we need to include the equals condition, right? There. All right, let's shrink this up here. Oh, yeah, oh, okay. Let's add one more condition here. So I was expecting there to be some blanks, but let's see if actually we get a long and a short at the same time. Yeah, it doesn't look like it. Yeah, maybe not on the NQ. Let's go to something that's a little less volatile. Switch over to the ES. And man, I really wish Ninja would kind of clean this up. It doesn't always work. Where is it? There we go. Futures. There we go. There's the current contract. All right. There we go. Yeah, I figured the ES would at least give us one bar here. So there we go. We have a long and a short because the close is exactly at the midpoint there of that bar. There we go. Now, if we add a bar direction, so let's add a bar direction and a AND node. There, connect that up. There. So we have a down bar, but the close is above the 50% or midpoint there. And we have an up bar, but it closed way down. Yeah. So the 50% of the bar is achievable only because we have a price point from NinjaTrader to do that, right? So if you want anything else, you need a custom indicator that goes in and does that math, right? So yeah, it's a two-part mathematical formula there to do that. So, and also keep in mind you could kind of do, well, yeah, so if we took out the equals condition there, then, right, that would be, it would have to be a slightly above 50%, right, to get an output. Or you could switch your units to ticks and you can say, oh, you know what, I need to be one tick above or one tick below, the median or the midpoint there, right? So there's a couple of ways that you can slice and dice that. But you can't deviate too much more from this 50% without that custom indicator doing the math for you. So there. All right, so we have, let's back all this out here. There. All right, so we have this. So now we just need to throw in this bar touching the EMA 10. Let's see, I do have an EMA 9 on here, or 6, that's a 6. There you go. The thicker white line is the 9. All right, so I'm going to go with the EMA 9. All right. All right. So when you want to identify when a bar is touching a moving average, input A is going to be price, right? So the high price, we want the high price, right, to be above your moving average, and then we want the low price to be below. And there, a bar is touching, and we get a long and a short output, right? Well, actually, it's touching the SMA. So let's switch this over to the EMA. There's our EMA, and 9 period there. Right, so every time we have a long and a short on the same bar, right, those are bars touching the moving average, right? So now we want to filter out or remove the long onlys or the short onlys, right? So we're getting long output only when the bar is completely above your moving average. Or if your bar is completely below your moving average, then you're getting a short only, right? So let's filter this out, and we can just grab a long short modifier and set the mode to minimum. And when we do that, there we go. We're left with only the long and the shorts at the same time, right? So let's plug that in the name there, or not minimum. There we go. So the mode is set to minimum. We can push that back and connect that in, and there we have it. Looks like this bar just barely made it as qualifying where the closing price is at. So I'm trying to, here we go. So here is a bar that's touching, right? But that close, it's basically almost looks like a hammer. So down bar, but the close is way up there. Yeah, and therefore no signal, no output. So, all right, there we go. So, let's see. Rang is asking points or ticks. You know, your choice. I was just kind of throwing out some flexibility that that you have with that 50% there. Let's see. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, I mean, so if you want, you know, if you want to adjust your 50% requirement to being 1 point above the 50% or the midpoint there, right? That's all up to you. So. Well, all right. So yeah, that one was pretty simple. Let me just make sure I covered all the comments or questions here in the Q&A. And all right, yeah, so Melroy's already requested for the video and the Bloodhound file. All right, sounds good. And no, I don't see any other follow-up questions here on this. So, all right. There we have it so far. Let's see. Ranga says, seems the outputs are wrong. Yeah, give me a timestamp here. Oh, the bar open and close. Okay, yeah, you have to. Yeah, so this just says the close. All right, so you want the open and the close. Let's see. Oh, sorry. There we go. All right, right there. Open and close. Yeah, all right, so we need one more condition here. So I'm guessing maybe the bar direction is not critical with in this, so I'll disconnect it there. All right, so here's what's checking to see if the close is above or below. And so let's make a copy of this guy and we'll paste it right there. And all right, so before I move on, let's see at 1050. Yeah, there's probably going to be a bunch. 1050. Yep, there we go. So, right. Yep, 1049 and 1050. So, right, we got really long bars. Okay, so this is looking for hammers and what, shooting stars, I believe. Hammers and shooting stars. Essentially, not exactly a hammer, or a shooting star, but close to it. Yeah, so something like these guys here. Yeah. And so went too far. All right. So let's move. Yeah, remove these two guys here. These two really, yeah. So let's connect up our new solver here and adjust the name. All right, so the open. So all we need to do is just adjust input A to the open price. And there we have it. Connect that in. And bingo, there we go. Removed. And let's see. Yeah, all right. Yeah, so both the close and the open are below the halfway point. Yeah. Same here. Same here. There. Yep, so there we go. Bars with bodies on one side of the candlestick or the other side of the candlestick. Yeah. All right. Now, let's see here. The one thing to point out is the direction, right? The direction is based on which side of the bar the close and the open are on, right? So if the open and the close are on the bottom half, yeah, so we can see right here, right? If the body's on the bottom half, then we get a short. If the body is on the top half, we get a long. So if this is non-directional, yeah, if this is non-directional, then we could adjust, well, Hmm. Yeah, I was kind of thinking we could adjust um, one of these solvers here, but actually, no, because we're using an add node, no, that's not going to work. Yeah, so if this is a kind of a non-directional condition here, which it kind of looks like it is because we want to know when the bar is touching it. And of course, if the open and close is on one side of the bar or the other, you know, it isn't really common for determining the direction of a trade or something like that. Then yeah, so if this is non-directional and it's just a condition, um, let's see here, then what we can do. There we go, long short modifier. And we're going to use, oh, where is it? Average. Oh, there we go, addition. There we go. All right, yeah, so addition, this is not alphabetical. Addition's near the bottom. There, actually, yeah, the math functions are, so we have addition, difference, divide, right? Product, yeah, all the math functions are at the bottom. So there we go. So addition, and then we get a long and a short output there. Yeah. Right. So there you have it. So you can pick and choose what kind of output you want there. Yeah. And all right, so with that, let's check a few more timestamps here. 10 o'clock and 10:04. Yeah, so actually, no, 10 o'clock's correct. Oh, is correct, and 10:04 green is wrong. Well, no, I mean both of the open and the close is above that midpoint there. Let's see. We could put a indicator on the chart here that will draw that midpoint on there. So if we go to Shark Indicators, go into Tools and Chameleon, let's add Chameleon to the chart. So I'm going to turn off the high. So transparent, turn off the lows, and transparent. Mid bounds, median. Oh, you know what? Yeah, the mid is the mid. The median is the average of all four prices. Oh, okay. Yeah, I thought there was a midpoint here. Let's see, let's put that on there. There. All right. Yeah, I don't use, yeah, the midpoint and the mean don't get used very often. So I'm always, yeah, so I'm always at a loss for which is which. Let's see here. Let's make this a different color. All right. Well, they appear to be the same. Um, okay, good, good. Yeah, what it could be is I think the midpoint might have been a NinjaTrader 7 um, name that they used with NinjaTrader 7, and then they adjusted it to a more mathematically correct name for NinjaTrader 8, and now they call it the mean. Yeah. All right, good. Yeah, so the typical is going to be the open, high, low, and close added together and averaged. Yeah. But again, don't quote me on this stuff. Always go to NinjaTrader's documentation, when you're checking these price points here from NinjaTrader. So, all right. There. All right, let me continue on here and see what else might be in the Q&A window. Let's see here. Oh, yeah, let's take a closer look at that 1004 bar. Yeah, so there you go. So there's the line for the midpoint there. And yeah, we can see the open is about a tick above it, and or the close is a tick above it, and obviously the open's way above it. Yeah. So okay, there. All right, let me just finish cleaning up the Q&A window, and we'll kind of summarize this. There. Let's see here. All right, yeah, so let's just kind of summarize this. And there, we'll leave it. Yeah, I'll leave it like that. All right. There. All right, so the solver on the top is making sure that the closing price, right, is above or below the midpoint. And, right, the solver below it, as the name implies, is checking if the open price, right, is above or below the median there. And then these two nodes are checking to see if the bar is touching a moving average, right? So I have the EMA 9 in here, simply because I already have an EMA 9 on there, and that's going to be really close to an EMA 10, so I just didn't want to clutter up my chart with more moving averages. So close enough, and of course all you have to do is go into input B and adjust the EMA from a 9 to a 10, and yeah, there you go. I guess also if you wanted to, to filter things out by a bar direction, like for example, there you go. So this up bar right here would be filtered out if I connected in this bar direction, like so. There we go. Actually, a lot of them got filtered out. So yeah, that's another up bar. And we got some dojis, so dojis will get wiped out. So that's a down bar, right, with the long output there. So that would get, yeah, removed there. And then lastly, if this is a non-directional, condition, which it definitely looks like it could be used for non-directional as a non-directional condition, just a basic condition without a trend, then that is what the long short modifier does, is it gives you a non-directional output that you can then use with other trend directional filters there. What's the name of the solver? Oh, this is the comparison solver. Yeah, so you can see what the solver is up top there. Yeah, so this name is adjustable. This is the solver itself. Yeah, so if I click on the bar direction, there you go, bar direction, solver. Let's see here. If I click on a slope solver, drag this out, right? That's a slope solver. There you go. It says slope up top there. Yeah, so these are all comparison solvers. Yeah, because something is, yeah, everything here has a comparison. So we're not comparing to an indicator like the MACD, right? We're not looking at the slope of anything. We're not checking if an indicator is above or below some zero line, or whatever. Yeah, so these are all comparisons. So we're comparing the open to the median, comparing the close to the median, and then comparing the high and the low to the EMA. Here. So, all right. I'm guessing, I think we have this question wrapped up. So let's see where we're at. Wow. All right, we're almost at the 2-hour mark, which is pretty average for a Bloodhound workshop. So I gotta say, this was a pretty good session, I think. Got a bunch of questions answered, a bunch of conditions built. So good. All right. Yeah, so Ranga's asking, yeah, can we share the, yeah, absolutely. All these Bloodhound files are uploaded to the website, or more easily for you, you can just email support and ask Mike for a copy of today's Bloodhound file. And he will email you a link to download it from our website here. Yeah, so let's go. All right, so here's the Shark website. Let's open that up over here. All right, so from the website here, just go to support. Well, actually, you need to just email Mike for that file. Just email Mike, but I'm just going to show you where the other Bloodhound files are located here. So if you go to support, template files, right? So what you're asking for is the Bloodhound template file. So if you go to template files, right, here's the download page for that. And you can see here we do have a section for all the systems, not all of them, but going back, I think, 4 years. Well, actually, no, there's some 2012, but basically going back to 2020 is when this really was started here. So yeah, these are all the systems that were built in the sales webinars to just demonstrate Bloodhound and maybe Blackbird. But what you're interested in is the Bloodhound templates here. Yeah, so you can just go in there, and then you'll want to sort by date here. So if you click on date, there you go. So the newest ones are listed first there, right? And the older ones are there. And here's instructions for downloading, right? Downloading, and more importantly, where do you save that file? Yeah, so there's instructions right there. On every page has that set of instructions there. So yeah, so when you email support, you'll get a link back to the specific page here. Right, so you can see this is the specific page for last week's workshop there, and right there's your download button. So there you go. And again, instructions for downloading, where to put it, and stuff like that. Yeah. So that's where all the template files are at. Yeah, if I go back enough times, there you go. And then there are some Blackbird files here. So, and then if you ever come across a really, really old NinjaTrader 7 workshop, here's where all the Ninja 7 files are located. So they're all separate there. Oh, and also the chart template. Yeah, I do save out the chart templates here. All right. All right. Yep. You're welcome, Ranga. Yeah, good to see you're back in the room. Getting educated here. All right, guys. Well, so I don't have any more questions, and since we are at the almost at the 2-hour mark, I'll put in I guess a 10 minute timer or so. All right, so if I don't see any more questions in the next 10 minutes, then I'll take that as my cue to close up the shop. All right, but if you do have questions, keep them coming. So the workshop will stay open almost as long as necessary to get all your guys' questions answered. All right, but again, once a period of time goes by where there's just no more questions, then that's when I decide to wrap it up. All right, so again, I'll give everybody at least 10 minutes to get some more questions in and keep the workshop going. Otherwise, we'll wrap it up. So, there. Yeah, so don't be shy. If you do have questions, get them in there and I'll get them answered. And let's see here. We need to provide a name for this. All right, let's see here. Ranga's asking, Keith is still there? Yeah. Yep, Keith is still here. You bet. He is still running this sales department. Yeah, you're welcome, Ranga. Asking your questions on how to build something is exactly what these workshops are all about. So you bet. I'm glad to help out. All right, gentlemen. Well, if anybody else has any more questions about about 6 more minutes left to get those questions in here, although I can see the room is thinning out. So yeah, it's thinning out. So I guess if enough people leave, I might wrap it up earlier. So but again, guys, I'll stay here for at least another 6 more minutes to see if anybody else has some more questions. And yeah, so in the meantime here, I'm just gonna mute my microphone. So. All right, Ranga, have a good rest of your day. And yeah, remember, guys. Oh, yeah, shoot. I should have announced this earlier. Tomorrow, right? There's it's a market holiday, so there's no data, so there's no Blackbird workshop tomorrow. All right, since the markets are closed. So yeah, so with that, guys, yeah, I say have a good weekend, Ranga. So yeah. All right. Well, with Ranga checking out, for the day, that only leaves 3 more guys in here. My guess is Charles, Dean, and Mike. You guys don't have any questions, so yeah. So with that, then I'll say have a good weekend, and I'll see you guys next time, next week. There. Yep. And just remember, if you have a question, you can always email that in, so that way you don't forget. Next week. That way you don't forget what your question is. So, yeah. All right, gentlemen, have a good weekend and see you next time. All right, bye-bye, guys.